My name's Costa Georgiadis. I am a citizen of Sydney. You may well know me from being involved with a program on SBS called Costa's Garden Odyssey, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here because I believe that food and health are the most important things that we exist for. Anything that threatens food, which is our environment, because our food is grown in an environment, anything that threatens that without full and complete and transparent studies and information just doesn't sit with me. So I'm here because I want to be here. I've been supporting this. I've been to Tara. I've been to the front line. I've seen what's going on. I can speak personally about what is happening on the ground. I'm very concerned, and for this reason I will put my hand up to assist in any process of bringing truth and transparency to this industry and to what is taking place in our landscapes, which is our future food bowls. So I'll start with a question that I've received here from Josie Evans. Since you have not fulfilled the obligations of your contract, one of them being drilling within 2 years of contract starting, why are you still here?
Can you hear me all right? Exploration licences have work programs attached to them, which we're obligated to complete for the government. In some circumstances, companies aren't given the opportunity to complete their work programs. It's just a simple matter of logistics and the local environment. And to be able to complete work programs in some short time frames means that companies would have to be forced to do things firstly before they were ready or before they'd done sufficient training. Trial and exploration licence was granted for 3 years. And
from what date?
22nd of October 2008.
Thank you.
And we'll be putting in a renewal for that licence.
With specific reference to the drill site, has DART ever mined for gas within such a heavily industrialised site and had to operate within metres of other industrialised concerns? How can DART guarantee the integrity of the drill site if the latest DA from Dialer Dump is passed, which virtually allows it to operate 24/7 using Holland Street as the joint entry? Then both DART and Dialer Dump will be operating 24/7 at the same time and sharing a driveway that only allows one-way traffic.
Yeah, so the business of Dialer Dump is their business. We've got no say in what they do. In terms of working around other operations, DART's a relatively new company of itself. We've got operations around the world, but we've got lots of experienced people who have worked in a whole bunch of industries. And one of the main things that DART does in India is extracting gopher gas out of old mine voids. And that's a process which occurs around other industries and does go quite safely.
You've never worked around an industrial area before, and you can't account for what Dialer Dump does. How can you account for what goes on the site? There are 2 other companies working there, Dialer Dump and Super Kenny. How can you guarantee this to us? How can you guarantee the integrity of the site when we'll be locked out of it? And why do you actually, all of a sudden, stop wanting to talk to me when I start to ask the very difficult questions? And we live 200 metres from the site.
Yeah, look,
Nice to
thanks,
meet you.
We've had a fair bit of email communication between us, and we've tried to catch up a couple of times. It hasn't always happened.
Is she like transparent?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, there's some questions around Dialer Dump's operations that I have no idea about.
But you should.
I can't know everything that happens on that site.
They move out and make room for other people.
How can you guarantee the integrity of the site if you don't know who you're
Working with.
Well, our sites, keeping in mind, okay, we're talking about 2 different aspects here. Exploration drilling is one thing. That's a temporary operation. Production is another thing. That's a long-term thing. And if you have production facilities, you have to make sure that they're fully secured. You can't have, you have to need tamper-proof equipment. Otherwise you have people fooling around with your gear, and that happens with every industry. Every industry needs some sort of protection to their infrastructure to make sure that it's safe. you can't operate in an unsafe environment. You need to have full accountability for your insurances and the local community. And you can't operate an unsafe site. It just doesn't work.
How can we trust you to do this stuff if you haven't even got the basics?
After 3 years.
Well, like Robert mentioned earlier, exploration drilling in Dial Dump is not an immediate priority, and it's a few years down the track. To access anyone's land in New South Wales, legislation requires us to enter it voluntarily into a land access and compensation agreement with them. And we don't currently have that in place with the Dial Dump operators. We can't operate until that happens. And under that, we need to have operational cooperation between whoever's operating on site, whether that be an industrial area or a farmer.
Okay, on the topic of community consultation, Sandra Greek has asked, as stakeholders 200 metres from the site and acknowledged as being affected by the mining, we last received a letterbox drop in December, and this was from Apollo.
Apollo Gas. Apollo.
When are Dart Energy going to consult with us, and will it be another late, early morning letterbox drop? But the point is, what's your plan? When are you going to consult with people?
Well, no, it's a good question. We Look, we need to consult with people, absolutely. That's one of our priorities. But to do so too prematurely just puts that long time frame and puts a lot more grief out there. And we want to know closer to the date how it's going to actually be effective. Like, what's the actual dates? When are things happening? Having things.
You want to consult when it's a done deal.
What's the date? I'm not going to bring the who, that for the community.
Go here in the red shirt.
So I'm simply echoing your own words. We want to know closer, like sooner than the day before drilling, exactly what you're planning to do. Because I must say, even if I was for gas mining, you don't give me any confidence whatsoever that you know what you're doing.
Our prerogative is to do consultation before something happens, and it's a matter of time frame to get that in the right time.
Look, the question was asked, has Dart done this before? In an area that's industrialised like St Peters.
Who are you?
Question.
Who are you?
My name's Malcolm Bocking, I work for Dart Energy. There are a number of people in Dart Energy. There are skills from a lot of different areas. Amongst the skills that Dart currently has are people that have drilled in Sydney, in central Sydney. Beverley, 200 metres from Henderson Road. Coal seam gas, 1993-94.
And Buttermilk.
There were pictures of it in the Herald at the time. It was page 2 in the Herald at the time. It was novel, 1993-1994. The other place that work of this nature was done in Sydney was at Bunurong. Both of those were in heavily industrialised sites. Very similar in many ways to the Dial Dump site.
What was your Buttermilk?
Perhaps you asked for transparency, you asked for understanding. Now, what you do need to offer is transparency and understanding. Dart is based on transparency and understanding, though some would argue that may not be the case. But that's the way that Dart operates, and that's the way we need to deal with people. But the people need to deal with us in the same way. So understand that work like this has been done in Sydney before. Some of those people currently work for Dart Energy. Some of them are consultants to Dart Energy. Those skills have not been lost, that experience has not been lost. If you want to look up the information, it's available to you on the Mines Department's website. There's a thing called DIGS, which is open to the public. You can access all the information from exploration from that period. At the time, I'm sorry I didn't hear that question and it might have been to someone else.
I just wonder why we've got to dig the information out of you you know, little bit by little bit by little bit. If that's information that's relative and relevant to then why isn't it on your website, for example? He said, we've got to go off and become researchers and do this, that and the other. This transparent community consultation, put all the information that you think is relevant on your website, make it easily accessible. And the other thing is about the date, is it's only us who found out that it's not going to be before October the 3rd. Like, that's because we've pressured you to tell us, are you going to drill by then? It was only tonight that I found out that you're applying for a renewal of that licence on October. Like, we've got to dig every little piece of information out, stick it up there.
It really is a case of the questions that are asked and weeding out the important information from the questions that are asked. No, I think you have to be fair and you have to be understanding. They were the requests that you made of us.
I think something like a date on when the mining will occur and when things are going
one of the prime controls
that should be told to the community.
One of the prime controls on the timing is indeed the community itself.
So if it's ongoing time, that would be fantastic.
Okay. If the community was accepting, as indeed many communities have been in the past, the people of Everleigh in '93 and the people of Bunurong Road in part of the misunderstanding is that the two issues have been very much confused in the public debate, that being exploration and that being production. To decide what might be necessary in a production field, you need first to understand, to decide what you need in a production field, you first need the facts. The purpose of exploration is to collect the facts. Exploration is a very low impact activity, but you are concerned particularly about exploration. Exploration is not a high impact activity. Now, if you look... I'm sorry, you had a question in the region.
There's no point doing the exploration unless you plan to move to production.
That's a complicated one, but unless the benefits of the process can be explained, because you know the facts, you can't argue for the production project. You need to know the facts first. Now, the results that I referred you to for Everleigh and Bunurong are favourable, but they're not here. They are not sitting under a half square kilometre site like Dial a Dump. Dial a Dump would be, if you were to take the examples from Paris and Los Angeles, would be considered an appropriate site for gas production. It's difficult in Sydney to find areas of 200 metres from residence, which is a global standard.